20 restaurant chains that might vanish in 2025. Remember the buzz of a packed Friday night at your favorite chain restaurant? The sizzling plates, the cheesy ads, the bottomless soda refills? Those days may be numbered. In this video, we uncover 20 restaurant chains that might disappear in 2025. Outback Steakhouse. The smell of grilled steak and the hiss of a hot plate once marked the start of something familiar at Outback Steakhouse. Families gathered under dim lighting, drawn in by the blooming onion and that rugged Australian flair stamped across menus and signage. But those crowded booths are growing scarce, and the rhythm of dinner service no longer echoes the way it used to. Over the past 2 years, beef prices have soared by more than 30%, slicing into profits already stretched thin. Outback's answer, raising prices, hasn't softened the blow. For many loyal patrons, a simple steak dinner has become an occasional luxury rather than a weekly tradition. Meanwhile, efforts to attract younger crowds through delivery apps and digital upgrades haven't landed well. Franchisees are growing uneasy, pointing fingers at corporate leaders they say no longer grasp the financial realities on the ground. In late 2024, Bloomin' Brands confirmed plans to shut down dozens of lagging locations, but many in the industry warn the issue cuts deeper. Sit-down steakhouses across the country are losing ground to faster, cheaper alternatives. If Outback hopes to stay in the fight, reinvention won't be optional. It'll be the only way forward. Buffalo Wild Wings. Under glowing flat screens and walls lined with jerseys, Buffalo Wild Wings built its name as more than a place to eat. It was where the neighborhood gathered on game day. Tables filled fast, bartenders moved with precision, and the menu promised heat, crunch, and a cold drink to wash it all down. But now, the chain faces turbulence it can't dodge. Over the past year, chicken wing prices have jumped more than 25%, sending menu costs soaring and regulars walking out the door. Paying $20 for a plate of wings doesn't sit right when cheaper alternatives are everywhere, from hometown bars to deep fryers at home. To make matters worse, alcohol sales, the chain's financial backbone, have been slipping, leaving franchisees with hard choices and shrinking margins. Younger diners are heading elsewhere, favoring food that's cleaner, faster, or trendier. Booths that once buzzed with energy now sit open on game night, and corporate leaders are weighing store closures in a bid to stem the losses. With 2025 around the corner, many wonder if this chain can keep its footing, or if those final quarters are already being counted down. Boston Market. Who would have thought a place built on slow-roasted chickens and Sunday suppers could end up running out of gas so fast? Boston Market carved out its space by offering food that felt familiar. Golden rotisserie turning behind the counter. Trays filled with mashed potatoes. Cornbread stacked by the dozen. But time hasn't been kind to the company that once promised a sit-down meal without the sit-down hassle. Legal troubles have piled up. Lawsuits tied to wage disputes and poor working conditions have drawn headlines and shaken public trust. At the same time, the dining landscape has shifted. Hot bars and grocery stores now offer quicker, cheaper alternatives, and families leaning into delivery apps see little reason to detour for Boston Market's fare. In 2024, over 15% of its restaurants closed their doors for good, with many others barely holding on. Formerly a leader in the fast casual revolution, the chain now finds itself behind the curve it helped create. For a company once praised for bringing comfort food into the modern age, the current road feels narrow, unpaved, and littered with detours. Unless something changes, and fast, the final serving of rotisserie might not be far off. Applebee's. The tables once held birthday cakes and baby bottles, handshakes and high chairs. Applebee's, with its checkerboard floors and walls lined with hometown high school jerseys, brought a sense of familiarity to towns large and small. For years, it was where families gathered after ball games and co-workers split an appetizer platter at the end of a long day. But those booths aren't filling up the way they used to. Across the country, doors have been closing one after another. Inflation has worn down the very families Applebee's was built to serve. The once reliable 2 for $20 deal now edges closer to $25, and what was once considered value has slipped out of reach for many. In an age of food trucks, fusion menus, and quick-service convenience, younger crowds are drifting elsewhere. Late-night promotions and karaoke nights haven't done much to turn the tide. Executives speak of resilience, but behind the curtain, numbers tell another story. With customer loyalty wearing thin and losses piling higher, what was once a fixture in the casual dining world may soon join the ranks of restaurants remembered more for what they were than what they are. Were any of these places part of your childhood routines or weekend traditions? TGI Fridays. What happens when a place built for celebration begins to empty out, one booth at a time? TGI Fridays once marked the start of the weekend. Red-striped decor, bartenders tossing bottles behind polished counters, and plates stacked high with shareable bites. It was the kind of place where birthdays blended into office parties, and the laughter from one table rolled right into the next. But the shine has dulled, and the foot traffic has thinned. According to industry reports, more than 1/5 of its restaurants have gone dark in just the past 3 years, the result of shrinking profits and rising costs that have pushed franchisees to the brink. To regain traction, the chain has chased trends, bright-colored drinks, overbuilt desserts, but the efforts have landed flat. Younger diners scroll past those gimmicks, while older guests walk in expecting something they no longer recognize. Reviews now speak of tired interiors and food that doesn't stir much interest. For a brand that once rode high on energy and flair, the quiet hum of decline is getting harder to ignore. As the year turns, many are left wondering whether TGI Fridays can adapt fast enough, or if its next chapter will be its last. IHOP. A plate of pancakes used to be enough to bring people through the door, especially on slow Sunday mornings when the coffee came hot and the syrup never seemed to run out. IHOP, with its blue roofs and oversized menus, offered a place where breakfast stretched into lunch and no one minded waiting for a booth. But these days, the pace has changed. Families are reaching for drive-through sandwiches and mobile app lattes, trading silverware for cardboard sleeves and steering wheels. Behind the scenes, rising prices for eggs, milk, and flour have hit hard. Operators are struggling to stay open as costs climb and customers push back against higher prices. In 2024, dozens of locations shut down, many unable to justify expensive renovations required by corporate leadership. The now infamous name change campaign, meant to draw attention to burgers, only added to the confusion and distanced loyal diners. IHOP's stronghold has always been its dine-in experience, but in a market where takeout reigns and convenience sets the tone, that model grows harder to sustain. With closures stacking up and momentum slipping, what once stood for a hearty breakfast may soon become another faded sign off the interstate. Pizza Hut. The red roofs stood out against the skyline of suburban strip malls, promising hot pies and pitchers of soda served in red plastic cups. For years, Pizza Hut meant family dinners after Little League, Friday nights with classmates, and birthday parties under warm yellow lights. That formula once worked across towns from coast to coast, but the ground beneath it has shifted. Fast-paced rivals with tech-driven delivery have taken over the market, leaving Pizza Hut's dine-in model trailing far behind. Efforts to adapt have come late and light, with new delivery-focused stores rolling out, while the hundreds of older locations quietly shutter. Sales dropped nearly 12% in 2024 alone, and the strain is showing. Franchisees are backing out, unable to carry the weight of rising cheese prices, labor costs, and ongoing quality complaints. Reports of undercooked food and missed deliveries have pushed loyal customers toward competitors who move faster and charge less. Inside corporate offices, leaked documents suggest that hard decisions are on the horizon, including possible sell-offs or a breakup of the operation. For a chain that once helped define American pizza culture, the question now is whether reinvention can come fast enough, or if the final slice has already been served. Chuck E. Cheese. Could a pizza party palace built for chaos and tokens really disappear without a trace? Chuck E. Cheese once pulsed with energy, arcade lights flashing, game tickets fluttering from machines, and the chatter of birthday songs sung off-key by excited kids. Parents didn't come for the food as much as the safe distraction, the place where sugar and noise met in equal measure. For years, it worked. But that rhythm no longer fits the tempo of modern family life. In 2020, the chain filed for bankruptcy. Since then, financial troubles have deepened. Bloomberg reports nearly $2 billion in debt now hangs over its parent company. The core experience, pizza, games, parties, has struggled to compete with a generation raised on tablets and TikTok. While frozen products and delivery options were added in recent years, they haven't balanced the books. Reviews point to outdated equipment, worn interiors, and food that leaves little impression. On top of that, employee lawsuits in 2024 over labor issues stirred more trouble. As costs rise and foot traffic slows, analysts warn that the curtain may close for good. The show can't go on forever, especially when the audience has already moved on. Ruby Tuesday. The sign still hangs above the doors in certain towns, faded but hanging on. Ruby Tuesday, once a fixture along highway exits and suburban shopping centers, is nearing the final stretch of a long, slow fade. It used to stand out for its salad bar piled high and menus thick with choices, a place where date nights met family dinners halfway. But what was familiar has fallen out of rhythm with how America eats today. Since 2011, the chain has shuttered hundreds of locations, and by the end of 2024, fewer than 220 remained. The company hasn't fully recovered from its 2021 bankruptcy, and the aftershocks of the pandemic only deepened the cracks. Many franchisees are barely breaking even. Rent, wages, food prices, each one has crept higher, while traffic at the door has slowed to a crawl. Newer names in the fast casual space have moved in quickly, offering cleaner branding, quicker service, and menus built for a younger crowd. Efforts to pivot, meal kits, digital ordering, menu overhauls have drawn little attention. For many, Ruby Tuesday feels like a leftover from another era. And unless something changes fast, 2025 may bring down the curtain on a brand that once filled dining rooms from coast to coast. Red Lobster. How did a place once known for shrimp platters and cheddar biscuits end up circling the drain? Red Lobster rose through the ranks by offering seafood that felt accessible, lobster tails for folks who didn't live near a coast, and specials that made dining out feel a bit more special without breaking the bank. But that promise has grown harder to keep. The cost of shrimp and lobster has surged in recent years, dragging profit margins down to the bone. For many families watching their budgets, those once affordable plates now seem out of reach. According to the Wall Street Journal, the chain's parent company, Thai Union, has reported steep financial losses and is now restructuring U.S. operations. The numbers tell a harsh story. Promotions once celebrated, like the endless shrimp deal, have become liabilities, with reports estimating losses of several dollars per customer. Meanwhile, fast casual seafood spots are taking over the space Red Lobster once dominated, serving fresher meals with shorter waits. The dine-in model, long central to Red Lobster's identity, is also working against it as more people turn to takeout or skip restaurant meals altogether. Without a bold pivot and tighter control over costs, Red Lobster could be nearing its final course. Love content like this? Be sure to like the video and subscribe. We've got plenty more stories coming your way. Chili's. The scent of grilled peppers once drifted through open dining rooms, where sizzling skillets turned every table into a show. Chili's built its name on bold flavors, big portions, and that unmistakable sizzle that arrived before the waiter did. For decades, it stood strong among American casual dining staples, offering a place where families could gather and co-workers could unwind over margaritas and fajitas. But in today's market, that old recipe isn't working the way it used to. Fast casual chains with sleeker menus and lower prices have pulled a large share of the crowd. Custom-built burritos from competitors now draw the younger lunch rush, while delivery apps steer dinner traffic away from dine-in tables. Chili's tried to keep pace, rolling out robotic servers and trimming down the menu, but the numbers haven't budged in its favor. By the close of 2024, Brinker International admitted profits had dipped to their lowest point in decades. Behind closed doors, reports suggest rural locations are being closed to stop the bleeding. The chain still holds steady in suburban areas, but industry watchers are beginning to doubt whether that's enough. Without a dramatic turnaround, the next chapter in Chili's story may not include a table at all. Subway. In nearly every strip mall and gas station plaza across the country, a yellow and green sign promised a sandwich made your way. Subway wasn't built on spectacle. It offered something simpler: a foot-long roll, a line of toppings, and a few quick questions from behind the counter. Over time, that formula grew into one of the largest restaurant chains on earth. But scale alone can't hold a business together forever. As 2024 rolled on, trouble piled high. Franchisees across the nation began filing lawsuits, citing harsh lease terms and corporate demands they claimed were nearly impossible to meet. Overhead expenses ballooned, while margins thinned to paper. Meanwhile, customers voiced their frustrations online. Portion sizes changed without warning, and ingredients came under scrutiny. Efforts to regain trust through rebranding and new deli-style meats haven't moved the needle much. To many, these changes feel more like window dressing than real reform. Hundreds of locations have already closed this year, and industry analysts warn the pace may accelerate. For a chain that once dominated lunchtime crowds, the future now looks uncertain. Unless the foundation is rebuilt, Subway could soon be added to the list of giants that fell under their own weight. Sbarro. The line for a slice used to wrap past the fountain drinks and curl around the food court railings, where teenagers balanced plastic trays and parents shared greasy napkins. Sbarro wasn't fancy, but it was familiar. Folded pizza slices under heat lamps, garlic knots in paper boats, and the comforting aroma of baked dough drifting through the mall atrium. For years, it served as a lunchtime anchor for shoppers taking a break from window browsing and back-to-school errands. But the malls have emptied. According to data from Retail Dive, foot traffic in shopping centers has plummeted nearly 40% since 2020. That kind of drop doesn't leave much room for survival. While Domino's and Papa John's expanded through delivery and apps, Sbarro remained rooted in walk-up counters and cafeteria trays. And newer chains, MOD, Blaze, and Pizza, captured the fast casual wave with artisan crusts and build-your-own appeal. Sbarro tried to branch out, opening standalone stores in city centers and suburban strips, but those efforts stumbled. With rising cheese and wheat prices cutting deep into margins and customers drifting to more cost-effective meals, dozens of locations shut their doors in 2024. If the trend continues, 2025 may close the book on one of America's most recognizable mall staples. Hard Rock Cafe. Can a brand built on electric guitars and leather jackets survive in a world that's trading nostalgia for novelty? Hard Rock Cafe opened its doors with more than burgers. It brought a curated kind of cool, where gold records lined the walls, and the booth beneath an Elvis jumpsuit came with a side of fries. Tourists snapped photos between courses, and kids asked their parents who those people on the posters were. It was part museum, part restaurant, and for a time, that blend hit the sweet spot. But the decades have rolled on, and the beat has started to slip. According to Restaurant Business, dozens of locations have closed since 2020, with foot traffic thinned by high prices, outdated decor, and menus that haven't kept pace with the times. Younger diners, many with no real connection to the legends hanging on the walls, are skipping the chain entirely. The pandemic cut off a lifeline, international travel, and left many flagship stores empty for months. In cities like London and Las Vegas, where rents reach into the stratosphere, franchisees are reporting losses they can't absorb much longer, while attempts to pivot with local dishes and live-streamed concerts have been introduced. Results, so far, have been modest at best. Without a bolder reinvention, Hard Rock's once loud chorus may fall into silence by the time 2025 draws to a close. Checkers and rallies. Beneath the red awnings and checkerboard signs, Checkers and Rallies built their following with bold flavors and no-nonsense service. Double drive-through lanes hummed through dinner rush, and crinkle-cut fries dusted in seasoned salt became something of a signature in parts of the country where full dining rooms mattered less than quick hands at the window. But even for chains rooted in speed and simplicity, the road has grown rough. According to QSR magazine, supply chain issues have taken their toll. Ingredients run short, menus get trimmed, and customers grow impatient. Meanwhile, bigger players in the fast food race have widened the gap. With deeper budgets and tech-savvy rollouts, chains like McDonald's and Wendy's have captured the attention and loyalty that Checkers and Rallies once counted on. The company tried to push forward, introducing AI-powered systems and testing digital upgrades, but the execution hasn't matched the ambition. Long waits and inconsistent orders have dragged down customer ratings, while franchisees report mounting losses. In 2024, over 10% of locations shuttered their drive-through windows for good. Unless a serious turnaround takes shape, and soon, this dual-branded burger chain could be nearing the end of its run. If you could save one chain from this list, which one would it be, and why? Share your thoughts in the comments. Steak and ale. Have you ever heard of a place where prime rib shared the table with candlelight and salad bars changed the way America thought about dinner? In 1966, a man named Norman Brinker opened the doors to something new in Dallas, Texas. He called it Steak and Ale. The name suggested something old world, and the inside lived up to it. Low ceilings, timber beams, and tables where the glow of flickering candles met platters of sizzling meat. It was a restaurant built to feel both familiar and novel, and for a while, it did more than feed people. It reshaped the idea of what dining out could look like. Through the 1970s and into the height of its reach in the 80s, the chain flourished. Nearly 280 locations stretched across the country. Families came for the Kensington Club steak, office workers filled booths for happy hour, and a self-serve salad bar, unheard of at the time, became its signature. But by the 1990s, competition had tightened its grip. The market swelled with new names and faster service, and steak and ale lost ground. By 2008, the last locations had gone dark. Yet in 2024, something unexpected happened. The name returned. New restaurants opened in Texas and the Midwest, dusting off the charm and traditions of a brand many thought had vanished for good. Sambo's. A plate of pancakes and a steaming cup of coffee once came with every sunrise at a place called Sambo's, a name stitched into signs from coast to coast. It started in 1957, when two businessmen in Santa Barbara, Sam Battistone Sr. and Newell Bonet, blended their names to create a diner that promised comfort food at a fair price. The booths were filled with families, the walls painted with storybook scenes meant to charm young diners, and the griddles rarely cooled. By the late 1970s, the business had grown into a giant. More than 1,100 locations dotted the map. The menu stayed simple: fluffy stacks of hotcakes, thick burgers, eggs over easy. But outside the kitchens, a storm had begun to brew. The name and imagery, once brushed off as quaint, drew sharper scrutiny as the country began re-examining how it presented race in public life. Protests gathered momentum, and legal pressures mounted. By 1981, most locations had disappeared or rebranded under different names. The chain that once served millions began to fade into history. A single restaurant in Santa Barbara kept the doors open until 2020, when a renewed national reckoning prompted its final transformation, quietly retiring a brand that had stirred both appetite and debate for more than 6 decades. Burger Chef. In 1954, two brothers in Indianapolis had an idea that would help shape the American roadside for decades to come. Frank and Donald Thomas launched a fast food chain called Burger Chef. No fanfare, no gimmicks, just a grill, a promise of speed, and prices that left change in your pocket. From the start, they weren't interested in following trends. They were out to start one. They introduced a concept no one had seen before: the combo meal. A burger, fries, and a drink, stacked on a single tray for less than 50 cents. It was called the Triple Threat, and it turned drive-through windows into pipelines of steady business. Menu favorites like the Big Chef and Super Chef found loyal followings, and by 1973, Burger Chef had grown to more than 1,000 restaurants nationwide. But the 1980s brought consolidation and corporate reshuffling. Ownership changed hands, and under the weight of new management, the identity began to slip. Hardee's absorbed the brand, and slowly, the signs came down. By 1996, the last Burger Chef served its final customer. The patties were gone, but the imprint remained, a reminder of how a small idea from Indiana left its mark on an entire generation of American diners. Beefsteak Charlie's. Who could forget a place where the steak kept coming, the wine never stopped flowing, and dinner felt more like a celebration than a meal? Beefsteak Charlie's began its story in 1910, born in Manhattan under the hand of Charles W. Chisel. With wood-paneled walls and the easy clatter of forks and laughter, it welcomed regulars looking for something generous. Plates arrived heavy with grilled meat and chilled shrimp, while the salad bar stretched farther than most had ever seen. For much of the 20th century, it served as a gathering place, unpretentious, hearty, and built for appetite. In 1976, restaurateur Larry Ellman took the reins and brought it roaring into a new chapter. More than 60 restaurants popped up across the East Coast, all carrying the same promise: unlimited beer, wine, and sangria with your meal. For a while, that offer packed the dining rooms, but the model strained under its own weight. By the late 1980s, competition tightened, customer tastes shifted, and costs crept too high. An acquisition by Bombay Palace in 1987 aimed to steady the brand, but the effort couldn't reverse the tide. By 2009, the last Beefsteak Charlie's turned off its lights, leaving behind a vanished world of overfilled plates and open-handed hospitality. Red Barn. A red-roofed barn sitting at the edge of a parking lot once drew crowds not for livestock, but for burgers sizzling on the grill and fries served in paper trays. In 1961, 3 partners in Springfield, Ohio, Don Six, Martin Levine, and Jim Kirst, took a playful idea and turned it into something unforgettable: a fast food restaurant shaped like a country barn. With its peaked roof and cheerful facade, Red Barn stood apart from the sea of plain boxes lining America's highways. Their Big Barney burger made headlines before the Big Mac ever reached the spotlight. The Barnbuster came next, stacked high and built for appetites shaped by long days and empty stomachs. Red Barn didn't stop at burgers either. It introduced one of the first self-serve salad bars, giving folks a little more choice on their tray. Business boomed. At its peak, Red Barn had around 400 locations, stretching across the US, Canada, and as far as Australia. But in 1978, the chain changed hands. Its new owner, City Investing Company, cared more for property than patties. Without consistent backing, the restaurant lost its footing. By 1988, the last Red Barn had gone dark. What remains is the image of a big red building where folks once lined up for dinner and accidentally topped their burgers with coleslaw and didn't mind one bit. 20 mall restaurants that have disappeared. Remember when a trip to the mall wasn't complete without that one food stop you always craved? In this video, we're digging into 20 once-beloved mall restaurants that vanished without a trace. Get ready for a wave of delicious nostalgia. Roy Rogers. There was a time when grabbing lunch at the mall felt like stepping into the Wild West. Spurs, saddles, and all. That was the magic of Roy Rogers. More than just a fast food stop, it brought a frontier-style flair to suburban food courts where every tray came with a side of cowboy charm. One little-known fact, the chain's Fixin's Bar, where customers could build their own sandwiches with as many pickles, onions, and sauces as they pleased, was among the first of its kind in the industry, predating today's build-your-own trend by decades. It was more than just a gimmick. It was a celebration of choice and personal touch in a world of standardized burgers. Whether you ordered roast beef, fried chicken, or a thick burger, you gotta make it yours. And that felt special. Kids loved the cowboy hats and boot motifs, while adults appreciated the hearty meals that felt a bit more substantial than typical fast food. But as tastes shifted and newer chains streamlined their offerings, Roy Rogers slowly disappeared from malls across the country. Still, for many, the memory of that dusty trail vibe and a sandwich made just the way you liked it is one that never truly fades. Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor. Some places didn't just serve ice cream, they launched full-blown sugar-fueled celebrations that could rattle the walls. Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor was one of those places. It didn't just scoop dessert, it threw a party with every order. For kids in the 70s and early 80s, a visit to Farrell's felt like stepping into a living cartoon. Waiters in candy-striped vests and straw hats sprinting across the dining room, drums pounding, horns blaring, and all eyes on the massive sundae being paraded across the floor like a trophy. There was nothing subtle about it, especially not the zoo, their signature creation that could feed a little league team and came topped with sparklers and an American flag. Birthdays there weren't just memorable, they were legendary. Families gathered not just for the food, but for the sheer joy of watching chaos unfold in the most delightful way. But as the years rolled on and the mall scene gave way to quieter, sleeker dessert chains, Farrell's faded into the rearview mirror. Still, for those lucky enough to witness its joyful madness, the memory remains vivid. A swirl of laughter, whipped cream, and that one last spoonful of magic before it all disappeared. Mrs. Fields.
Mrs. Fields, yeah! Baking factory, you can make all kinds of treats. Mrs. Fields!
Warmth hit you before you even saw the counter, rich, buttery, and sweet enough to stop you mid-step. That scent? It could only mean one thing. Mrs. Fields was close. In a sea of neon signs and plastic trays, her little kiosk stood out like a warm hug in a paper bag. For many mall-goers, especially in the 80s and 90s, a cookie from Mrs. Fields wasn't optional. It was tradition. There was something magic about watching those trays come out of the oven, the cookies still soft in the middle, just barely holding their shape. You didn't need a holiday or a birthday, though if you were lucky, someone might surprise you with one of those oversized cookie cakes, decorated with swirls of frosting and your name in bold, sugary letters. Founded by Debbie Fields in 1977, the brand quickly became a staple in malls across America. It wasn't just about dessert. It was about slowing down for a moment of comfort. Though a handful of stores remain today, the golden age of Mrs. Fields as a mall essential has quietly passed. But for those who remember, that first bite still lingers, a sweet reminder that joy sometimes came wrapped in wax paper and sealed with chocolate chips. Bressler's 33 flavors. What if I told you one of America's most beloved ice cream empires was born out of a chance moment at an air circus? That's exactly how Bressler's 33 flavors got its start. In the depths of the Great Depression, a young Polish immigrant named William J. Bressler watched opportunity rise from a scoop of ice cream. Inspired after his brother spotted a vendor drawing crowds at an air show, the Bressler brothers began selling ice cream bars wholesale, just the beginning of what would become a household name. Through the 1960s, the business blossomed into franchised storefronts, and by the 1980s, Bressler's bright signage and creamy confections were staples in mall food courts across the country. Their famous 33 flavors weren't just marketing, they represented abundance in an era hungry for joy. At the time of Williams' passing in 1985, the company had swelled to over 400 locations. Ownership changed in 1989, and again in the 90s, eventually reaching international markets by 1996. But like so many mall icons, Bressler's faded with the changing times. By 2007, the last traces of the brand quietly melted away, leaving behind only sweet memories for those lucky enough to taste its heyday. Burger Chef.
Open wide, America! Burger Chef's got big, juicy, terrific burgers for you!
They called it the Works Bar, but it might as well have been a salad bar for rebels. Back when bell-bottoms were in and malls had fountains, Burger Chef was flipping more than just patties. It was flipping the script on fast food. Long before "Have it your way" became a corporate slogan, Burger Chef gave customers real control. You grabbed your burger and headed to that magical self-serve topping station where pickles weren't rationed and ketchup flowed like freedom. For a generation growing up in the 1960s and 70s, this wasn't just lunch. It was a choose-your-own-adventure in a paper wrapper, even rivaling McDonald's at one point. It peaked at over 1,000 locations, many tucked inside shopping plazas and bustling malls. But as the fast food market tightened and competition heated up, Burger Chef began to lose steam. By the early 80s, its flame had started to flicker out. Still, for those who remember, nothing beats the feeling of stacking your own burger under glowing orange lights, with the sound of mall chatter echoing in the distance. It wasn't just fast food, it was yours. Orange Julius.
Small Orange Julius smoothie is just $1.49. Why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary?
Mall afternoons had a rhythm of their own, and tucked right into that rhythm was a frothy orange drink that felt like summer in a cup. Orange Julius wasn't fancy, but it didn't need to be. It was cold, sweet, and slightly fizzy. Just unusual enough to feel like a treat, but comforting enough to crave every time. I can still picture the glow of the food court lights bouncing off those white styrofoam cups, condensation dripping down the sides as we clutched them like treasure after a long day of browsing record stores and trying on sunglasses we couldn't afford. What made it unforgettable was the flavor, somewhere between a creamsicle and a dream, with a hint of vanilla swirling through citrus. No one really knew what was in it, and honestly, no one really asked. If you were lucky, you grabbed a hot dog to go with it, which somehow made the combo even more perfect. As other chains came and went, Orange Julius quietly slipped into the background, merging with Dairy Queen in some places, but losing that original spark. Still, for those who remember, just the thought of that first sip can bring back an entire era, one frothy orange memory at a time. York Steakhouse.
Come to York and get a lot more lunch for a lot less money.
Do you remember a time when grabbing a steak dinner at the mall didn't sound completely insane, but kind of brilliant? Back in the heyday of linoleum floors and neon signage, York Steakhouse was the quiet hero of the food court. It wasn't flashy, but it knew what it was. A no-frills, hearty sit-down meal in the middle of a bustling shopping trip. With a tray in your hand and the warm scent of grilled sirloin in the air, you'd shuffle through a cafeteria-style line, choosing baked potatoes, mac and cheese, or maybe a square of cornbread to round out your plate. And it wasn't just affordable, it actually felt like a decent meal, even when served on plastic trays under fluorescent lights. Founded in the 1960s and expanding quickly throughout the 70s, York offered a rare blend of value and comfort that made it stand out in a sea of burgers and fries. But as mall dining got faster and leaner, York's slower, sit-down charm lost its place. By the early 90s, most locations had vanished. Still, for many of us, York is a tender memory, proof that you could eat like a grown-up, even with a shopping bag in each hand. Do you remember any local mall eateries that were unique to your town? Howard Johnson's Express. Bright orange signs, chrome stools, the smell of burgers sizzling next to a scoop of ice cream. That was Howard Johnson's Express, a bite of old-school Americana nestled inside the buzz of a modern shopping mall. Best known for its roadside diners and motor lodges, the Hojo name didn't just live on highways. It carved out a home in malls, too, where its express outlets served up comfort food that felt like it belonged in a booth off Route 66. You could walk in from a chaotic afternoon of bargain hunting and, within minutes, be served a hot meal that brought back memories of road trips, paper hats, and family stops along the way. Whether it was a fried clam plate, a grilled cheese sandwich, or a towering banana split, the food had a simple, satisfying charm. No gimmicks, just the kind of meal that made you smile without thinking too hard about it. But as tastes changed and quick-service chains flooded the food court, Howard Johnson's faded quietly into history. Still, for those who remember, it wasn't just a place to eat. It was a cozy, neon-lit pause in a fast-moving world. A quick meal, sure, but one with a story tucked into every bite. Kenny Rogers Roasters.
Introducing Kenny's brand new barbecue chicken, perfectly cooked and basted in a savory sauce. Try our downright kickin' barbecue chicken today.
Kenny Rogers Roasters. There's goodness here.
It's the wood that makes it good.
You're gonna love this food.
Ever thought a country singer could serve up one of the best chicken dinners at the mall? Long before rotisserie chicken became a supermarket staple, Kenny Rogers Roasters was making it feel like Sunday supper, no matter the day of the week. Founded by the country legend himself in 1991, the chain offered more than just food. It gave you a place to slow down, sit back, and dig into a plate that felt like it came from your Aunt Margie's kitchen. You'd get your tray, pick out your sides, maybe some buttery mashed potatoes, sweet corn, or green beans, and then wait for that golden seasoned chicken to hit your plate. I still laugh, remembering how my cousin dropped his whole meal trying to juggle his tray and a large soda, only to turn around and see Kenny's smiling face on the wall. He saw the whole thing, we joked. The restaurant had a warm, homespun charm, wrapped in country music and the smell of roasting meat. But like many mall icons, it eventually couldn't keep up with the changing pace of fast food. Still, for those who remember, Kenny Rogers Roasters wasn't just a meal. It was comfort, country, and a little bit of home, right in the heart of the mall. If this video brought back memories, give it a like and subscribe so you can join us for more trips down memory lane. Morrison's Cafeteria. Do you ever find yourself missing the kind of meal that felt like it came straight from Grandma's kitchen, even if it was served on a plastic tray in the middle of a mall? That was the quiet beauty of Morrison's Cafeteria. It wasn't flashy, and it didn't try to be. Instead, it served up comfort, one scoop of mashed potatoes, one crispy piece of fried chicken, and one slice of warm pie at a time. The smell of roast beef and buttered rolls filled the air as families lined up with trays in hand, each person carefully choosing their favorite dishes behind a glowing glass counter. It felt less like fast food and more like Sunday supper. Morrison's brought that slow, satisfying Southern charm into a place not usually known for slowing down. It was a pause, a breather, a place where mall-goers could rest their feet and feed their soul. Over time, though, the pace of the food court quickened. Burgers and pizza pushed aside meatloaf and green beans. The cafeteria model lost its place. But in the hearts of those who remember, Morrison's remains, a warm echo of a time when food wasn't rushed, and every bite reminded you of home. Hot Sam pretzels. The smell hit you before you even saw the sign. Warm, yeasty, and just sweet enough to stop you mid-step. That's how you knew Hot Sam was nearby. In the golden days of mall culture, this little pretzel stand wasn't just a place to grab a snack. It was a beacon of comfort tucked between record shops and arcades. Founded in Michigan in the mid-1960s, Hot Sam quietly grew into a food court favorite across the country, long before mall pretzels became a competitive category. The pretzels were pillowy, golden, and always served hot enough to fog up the clear plastic bag they came in. Whether you went for the classic salted twist or dared to drown yours in molten cheese, each bite felt like a reward. And if you were lucky enough to grab the cinnamon sugar version, that was dessert and therapy rolled into one. Eventually, bigger chains muscled in, and Hot Sam began to disappear. By the early 2000s, it was absorbed into pretzel time, leaving only the memories behind. But for anyone who grew up spotting that red and white logo from across the food court, Hot Sam wasn't just a snack, it was a warm hug in the shape of a pretzel. The Magic Pan.
Like the Magic Pan? It's my kind of place and my kind of food.
Magic Pan, prime rib. Taste the magic.
Mall food courts didn't usually come with white tablecloth energy, but the Magic Pan almost pulled it off. This wasn't your average grab-and-go spot. It had flair, it had showmanship, and it had that mesmerizing spinning crepe skillet that made you feel like you'd stumbled into a Parisian kitchen, tucked between a shoe store and a Radio Shack. The Magic Pan specialized in crepes, thin, delicate, golden-edged little wonders, folded around everything from creamy chicken and mushrooms to strawberries and whipped cream. There was something theatrical about it all. You didn't just eat there. You watched, you waited, and you savored. The menu felt just a little more grown up, and if you were a kid, it gave you the delicious illusion of sophistication. The decor leaned into French bistro vibes, soft lighting and all, and for a fleeting moment, you forgot you were just a few steps from a bustling mall concourse. The chain originally launched in the 1960s and saw its heyday in the 70s and early 80s. But as food courts shifted toward faster, cheaper fare, the Magic Pan slowly lost its stage. Still, for anyone lucky enough to experience it, that first forkful of a freshly made crepe remains one of the mall's most elegant and unexpected surprises. If we missed your favorite mall spot, tell us. We want to hear about it in the comments. Brigham's ice cream. Is it even a real mall memory if it doesn't end with a brain freeze and a sticky spoon? Brigham's ice cream was that cozy, old-school spot where dessert didn't feel rushed, and neither did you. Born in Massachusetts and spreading its creamy joy across New England, Brigham's was famous for its thick milkshakes, towering sundaes, and ice cream so rich it made soft serve look like a knockoff. After a long afternoon of shopping or tagging along with your parents, sliding into one of their booths felt like a little reward, just for surviving. The real charm of Brigham's wasn't just the scoops, it was the ritual. You'd hear the clatter of dishes, watch that chocolate syrup swirl just right, and wait for the final touch, a dollop of whipped cream, and a maraschino cherry that somehow always felt like a big deal. For kids, it was magic. For adults, a slice of nostalgia served cold. As the frozen yogurt boom of the 90s gained steam and grab and go replaced sit and savor, Brigham's slowly melted out of mall life. But to those who remember, just thinking about a cone from Brigham's brings back a sweeter, slower world. One scoop at a time. Sbarro.
Don't stop eating at Sbarro.
Step off the escalator, take a deep breath, and there it was. That unmistakable wave of garlic, melted cheese, and mall air conditioning all rolled into one. That scent usually meant you were getting close to Sbarro. In the golden age of food courts, Sbarro wasn't just another pizza counter. It was the one that demanded attention. Their slices weren't slices. They were slabs, stretched long and wide under glowing heat lamps, each one begging to be folded in half and devoured on the go. What many don't realize is that Sbarro was one of the pioneers of mall-based dining, opening its first location inside Brooklyn's Kings Plaza shopping center in 1970. This move marked the chain's leap from neighborhood deli to national food court icon. By the late 70s, grabbing a slice meant you were part of something bigger, a casual ritual shared by teenagers, shoppers, and mall workers alike. Sure, you might burn the roof of your mouth on that first bite, but nobody cared. That greasy, glorious triangle was worth every scalding second. And while fast casual trends have pushed Sbarro into the shadows, the memory still lingers, like the last whiff of mozzarella in a mall that's long since gone quiet. Corn Dog 7. What happened to the kind of snack that made your whole day with just one bite? Before food courts became havens for kale wraps and protein bowls, Corn Dog 7 was proudly flying the flag for fried indulgence. You could spot it from across the mall, not by the sign, but by that unmistakable aroma wafting through the air. It was the scent of golden batter, hot dogs sizzling, and deep fryers working overtime. For many of us, that smell meant something good was about to happen. Their signature corn dog had the kind of crunch that echoed when you bit into it, followed by that savory snap of a hot dog inside. And they didn't stop there. Cheese sticks, seasoned fries, onion rings, each one served fresh, piping hot, in a paper boat that somehow made it taste even better. There was no apology in their food, just joy. Pure, greasy, crispy joy. But over time, as malls shifted toward cleaner eating and sleeker branding, Corn Dog 7 quietly faded out. Still, for those who grew up with it, the memory lingers. It's the taste of a Saturday afternoon, the comfort of something simple, salty, and fried, when one little corn dog could turn an ordinary mall visit into something worth remembering. Pup and Taco.
Can we come back tomorrow?
It only took one bite to realize you were eating something that made no sense, and somehow made perfect sense. Pup and Taco was one of those wonderfully oddball places that could only have thrived in the late 70s and early 80s, when fast food was still allowed to be weird, fun, and fearless. Where else could you order a chili dog, a crunchy taco, and a root beer float, all on the same tray, and not be judged for it? The menu was a mashup of Americana and Mexican flair, unapologetically casual, and totally unlike anything else in the mall. There was a kind of magic in that chaos. One moment, you were biting into something spicy and savory. The next, you were licking mustard off your fingers. It wasn't gourmet. It was youthful, messy, and proud of it. The kind of place where indecision was rewarded, not punished. Though most Pup and Taco locations were eventually bought out by Taco Bell in the 80s, the memories live on. For those who remember, it wasn't just the food. It was the freedom to eat what you loved, even if it didn't go together. And that feeling, that mix and match joy, still lingers in every nostalgic craving today. Great Steak and Potato Company. If your idea of a light mall snack included a half-pound of beef and a potato the size of your face, then the Great Steak and Potato Company was speaking your language. This place didn't do dainty. It was where hungry shoppers went when pizza just wouldn't cut it and a salad felt like giving up. You'd step up to the counter, hear the sizzle of steak hitting the flat-top grill, and watch as onions and peppers danced in hot grease. The cheesesteak would come piled high with gooey cheese tucked into a soft, warm roll. And right beside it, a baked potato so stuffed with sour cream, bacon, and shredded cheddar, it practically burst at the seams. It was hearty. It was greasy. It was glorious. And for a while, it was a food court mainstay, especially for teenagers and dads who needed something real after hours of shopping. But as mall dining leaned toward cleaner, trendier, bowl-based concepts, the Great Steak and Potato quietly faded out of fashion. Still, those who remember know the truth. It wasn't just lunch, it was a meal with weight, figuratively and literally. A bite of comfort, a forkful of nostalgia, and one of the few food court options that actually stuck to your ribs. Britling cafeterias. Few places could serve up meatloaf and mashed potatoes with the same charm as Britling cafeterias. Launched in 1919 in Birmingham, Alabama, Britling was named after an H.G. Wells novel, a literary nod that set the tone for a dining experience both thoughtful and comforting. Long before fast food or mall food courts took over American eating habits, Britling offered a slower, more personal approach. With polished serving lines and friendly staff behind the glass, diners moved through like clockwork, selecting hearty dishes that felt home-cooked. Over time, Britling locations expanded into shopping centers and eventually into mall spaces. Not quite a food court fixture, but close enough to catch hungry crowds with its southern staples. Its slogan, "Good food is good health," wasn't just a motto, it was a mission. By the 1980s, the chain had quietly slipped away, outpaced by newer trends. Yet for those who grew up with it, Britling remains a symbol of warm meals, simpler times, and a little southern grace served one tray at a time. Harvest House Cafeteria. Before food courts were filled with plastic trays and self-serve soda fountains, there was a place where lunch felt a little more like Sunday supper than a quick pit stop. Harvest House Cafeteria wasn't just a restaurant. It was a quiet cornerstone of mall dining during its earliest days. Born from the Woolworth five and dime empire, Harvest House started serving ice cream and hot meals long before the mall boom ever began. By the 1960s, they'd found their way into shopping centers, offering weary shoppers a break from browsing racks with hearty sit-down meals for just over $1. That's right, an entire dinner, warm and satisfying, for less than what you'd pay today for a coffee. Some locations were surprisingly elegant for a mall cafeteria. Think burgundy carpet, leatherette booths, brick walls, and windows looking out into bustling corridors. There was a sense of comfort there, a slower pace that felt almost out of step with the growing rush of retail around it. By the 1990s, as Woolworth stores began to vanish, Harvest House went with them. But their legacy lives on in every modern mall food court that tries, in its own way, to combine convenience with something a little more personal. They weren't flashy, but they helped build the blueprint. Rack's Roast Beef.
To enjoy tasty, affordable meals in a more mature dining environment.
Could a roast beef sandwich really feel sophisticated? That was the magic of Rack's Roast Beef, a fast food spot that dared to do things a little differently. While other chains chased speed and sameness, Rack's leaned into something more relaxed, more grown up. You didn't just grab a sandwich and run. You sat down in a soft booth, maybe poured yourself a drink at the self-serve soda station, and took a moment. For a fast food joint, it almost felt civilized. Launched in the late 1960s, Rax positioned itself as Arby's more adventurous cousin. The roast beef sandwiches were the star, of course, but the experience went beyond that. With curly fries, milkshakes, baked potatoes, and even a full salad bar, it offered variety at a time when most menus stuck to the basics. Some locations even featured solariums with greenery and natural light, which gave Rax a cafe-like vibe unlike anything else in its category. Eventually, the wave of fast casual competitors pushed Rax into the background. Stores closed, menus shrank, and the brand slowly faded from the mainstream. But for those who remember, a meal at Rax felt like a brief escape, where roast beef met comfort, and fast food didn't feel rushed. Just once more, wouldn't hurt, would it? Which of these fading restaurants did you grow up with? And which ones do you think still have a fighting chance? Let us know below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you won't miss what's coming next.